Yeah, well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're well. My name's Matt. I'm the MD at BIMA. I get the easy job today. I'm going to introduce the people that have done all the hard work and are going to present to you. Thanks for joining. It's lovely to see some familiar names and some new ones, like I said. If you're familiar with BIMA, you've probably been to something like this before. We run quite a lot of these types of events. If you're new to BIMA, we're a not-for-profit trade association that operate in the convergence of tech and creativity. And we've got three pillars in where we try and add value to our members in the industry. And one is around attracting talent to the industry itself. And the other one is about upskilling, whether it's training and mentoring. And our third pillar is all about inspire. And that's about embracing the tools that we've got to use as agencies and clients and brands. And as we operate in this convergence of tech and creativity, you can imagine there's a lot of talk of AI at the moment. But it's so broad. And of course, we've got to cover all these different facets of it. And it's been really interesting seeing the conversation around AI evolve a lot over the last year or so. And I think if we were running this webinar last year, it was very much like, what the hell is going on? What the hell is it? How's this going to impact us? And we understand now what it is. And I think everybody is fully aware of how it's going to impact us. And the conversations are now becoming a little bit more strategic. And when I want to know about things like this, I turn to my friend Garry at Acquia and his great team, and I try and pick their brains. So rather than me just pick their brains and find out what the hell is going on and how we can be more strategic, I've asked them to run a webinar so we can all benefit from it, because they've got a lot of cool tools, a lot of experience in this area. That's really my introduction. I'm going to pass over to Garry and his colleague Patrick, who are going to run the presentation for us today. The very simple housekeeping. It's a webinar. You're not on camera, so you can sit there with your feet up, grab your cup of tea or your coffee and your biscuit and sit back and enjoy this one. But please do make it as interactive as you can and ask questions. That's basically what I mean there. And you can do that in a really simple way. Just go into the Q&A on your webinar and ask anything that you like. It's always great to have questions. You can use the chat, but ideally use the Q&A function if you can. And we'll get to them either throughout the presentation or we'll address all the questions at the end. That's me done. I told you I had the easy bit. Thanks again for joining. Thank you so much, Patrick and Garry, for putting all this together. I really appreciate it. I'm going to sit back and enjoy as well. I think, Patrick, I'm going to hand over to you first of all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. And thank you everyone for joining today. I think that for us, as Matt was alluding to, there's just been a dramatic shift in terms of what is going on with AI, impact to the companies that we work with, and a dramatic impact to both Conductor and Acquia both. So just to introduce myself, my name is Patrick Kent. I'm the Senior Director of Partnerships and Alliances at Conductor, and I've been at the company for over 10 years. I think I'm actually moving on to lucky number 13. So it's, just at the part where it starts to get embarrassing that you've been at an organization for 13 years. I'll just say 10 plus. And for me, I've traditionally through my career, I led our sales engineering team. So very in depth with our product, have worked with hundreds of our customers over the years. Both from a solutions perspective, talking about the platform, but also implementing particular strategies for the customers that we worked with. And in totality, I've been in the SEO industry for over 15 years. So hopefully that qualifies me to talk about some of the trends that we're seeing and the customers that we're speaking with today. And as you can see, this is a joint partnership with Acquia. Acquia and Conductor have a phenomenal partnership where Conductor is the technology that powers Acquia SEO. And we work together with many of our customers and have joint strategies and marketing events like you're seeing today. And today's session is really focused on winning visibility to the new era of search. Obviously, a lot of these conversations are very new. I feel like every single month, things change dramatically, both within our technology as well as with the discussions that we're having with customers. As Matt was initially speaking to, when I've had these conversations last year, it was much more of like, I think AI is going to be a really huge thing. It's going to have an impact on our business, to where we clearly understand the impact that this is having on the companies that we're working with. And our focus is employing thought leadership as well as strategies that we see working with the customers, because we have the data to be able to back up some of the things that we're talking about, as well as developing and refocusing our entire technology to AI strategies, how to employ them, and how to track and measure the performance there. So the objective of today is to not just focus on the elements of what the Conductor technology can provide, but also, even if you're not leveraging the Conductor technology today, you know, looking at these specific metrics, employing these particular strategies can work in whatever tool sets that you're using. So while I will be focusing on Conductor, the methodologies hopefully will be, helpful for everyone, regardless of what you're using. And so for us, we really like to focus on just the massive shift that has been happening from traditional to AI experiences. I think that this says in the next 3 years, customers will spend their time to make purchase decisions. I said that my slideware get out of date within a month. I think that this has already happened, where we have our traditional mix of traditional search, leveraging Google, to folks clicking on their traditional paid ads, to going directly on the website and going through the buyer's journey, from your blog posts that you might be employing all the way to the products and services that you offer, to where most of those decisions are happening on the AI platforms themselves. And it's super fascinating to see how quickly this is being adopted. And like anyone that is attending today, I'm sure you have your own stories of purchase decisions or things that you have leveraged AI for that you literally did not do even a few months ago. Like I myself purchased a car recently, and it was kind of crazy because the entire process I leveraged ChatGPT for. And it is really interesting to think, when you're getting informed of those purchase decisions, that by the time I was at the dealerships looking at the cars, I already knew the 3 cars I was deciding between. And my entire purchase decision was entirely on ChatGPT. And I think that that is something that everyone is experiencing. And as marketers, it's kind of terrifying, because that conversation has now been taken away from you and is being influenced by a machine that is reading and synthesizing information without your direct input. So how do we influence those learning materials? How do we influence how the AI is learning and thinking about our products and services, and properly including us in the conversations where it's applicable for what we offer? And I think that, when we're thinking about that disruption of digital journey, again, it's going from, it's not just the fact that people are leveraging ChatGPT for the journeys, is that the entire search behavior has changed. I mean, we're going from where people traditionally went on Google and they would just type in, 3 to 4 to 5 word queries and get back results. Like I remember I remember it was, if you had 5 words in a string on Google, that was a long tail keyword, and that was like an opportunity to build early stage content. The average ChatGPT prompt is 25 words or more. And it's a whole conversation. And I think that there's also just the general strategy of moving from optimizing and thinking just solely about Google to where there's these network of LLMs and a more distributed stack that we need to be interacting with and getting insights in. And there's a lot of opportunity there if we can see it sort of unveil a little bit behind the scenes and start to see like where the conversations are, who's influencing those discussions, and how do we get to be a part of them. And I think going back to that initial point of going through that buyer's journey without going on your specific website for that, I think what we're seeing is that machines have become the primary arbitrator of content, and that is where customers are putting a lot of trust in terms of what the LLMs are synthesizing and putting in front of them. And so we're going from where we have all of our branded content data from ourselves and our competitors, and terrifyingly enough, Reddit forums and the Trust Radius of the world, and the review sites, and it's all being synthesized by AI agents that then get put in front of user-facing surfaces like obviously going to ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and so forth. And that is entirely where the conversation is taking place at this point. Now, the advantage there for us is that if we are in that mindset, the mind of the AI, so to speak, and we are a part of those conversations, conversion rates are super high. The customer's already made the decision by the time that they land on our website. But again, making sure that we are part of those conversations and understanding how to measure those and measure our visibility in AI is critical for us to be able to make sure that us as a business are not sort of giving that entire buyer's journey to a competitor or to a forum where we don't have the presence that we need to in order to be able to succeed. And I think that the main challenge is that it's just really difficult for organizations to shift this quickly, right? If we go back in the past, if Google rolled out a algorithm update and they said, you really need to focus on core web vitals and make your pages load faster, and I'm going to give you 2 years to address some of those, or I'm going to give you a few years to create better quality of content and not just pack tons of ads and tons of JavaScript on your web pages. That is fine if you have 2 years to adjust to these new signals and these new methodologies. But right now, what we're seeing is just every single month, it's just getting harder and harder for organizations to sort of catch up to businesses that are reacting faster. So measuring is a challenge. There's new signals that we need to employ. Like, what are our KPIs that we're focused on as a metric of success? There's high volatility because right now ChatGPT could be massively influential. Obviously, Google is making massive strides right now, and you have one of the most valuable companies in the world going all in on AI and injecting it into still the most popular search engine being Google. And also making sure that we're able to detect and measure these changes and show the impact that it actually has to new analytics metrics such as AI referral traffic that matters more and more. We also have to do more with less resources. We have an increased pace of content creation. How do we get into the mind, so to speak, of AI? We have to create content that the AI can be able to reference to learn about what our products and services are. But we can't really do that if we have less or the same resources that we had before. So we have to employ technologies to expedite the pace of our content creation efforts. And finally, it's not just an SEO team sitting in a basement someplace that looks at reports and sends them into an executive dashboard that is sort of looked at as sometimes an afterthought. Like, this is front and center, and teams need to be aligned in the technology because it's not just creating content, it's not just measuring the success of content, it's also making sure that we are thinking about how this is impacting our broader business strategy and the partnerships that we have with organizations that are influencing the LLMs. And when we think about the key metrics that are changing in our world, and I know I didn't introduce what Conductor as a technology has been, but traditionally our foundations has been as an SEO organization that measured your performance on traditional search and correlated it to metrics through your analytics. Our key metrics that we look at in our technology has fundamentally shifted. We're going from keyword and keyword rankings to what is our relevance to topics and conversational prompts. We're going from a heavy focus on monthly search volume to saying what we really need to understand is all the variants of the prompts that exist and understand the user intent behind the folks that are searching on the LLMs themselves. We're going from clicks and impressions on SERPs through Google Search Consoles, which is still important, by the way, but we're seeing much more of a focus on how often is my brand being mentioned? What's the sentiment behind how the LLMs are thinking about my brands, and how often are we being cited as a source? We're going from backlinks and link quality to, again, citations by AI engines as an authority indicator. Super important when we start to see who the trusted sources are that are influencing the conversations of LLMs. And finally, website traffic to AI bot traffic and referral traffic. It's sort of annoying, I think, to see how much bot activity is happening on our website, due to cost concerns and impact to server load. But super important because if the AI bots are not able to access our information, we're not going to get that referral traffic. And for us, we're really focused on employing technology for our customers. that's not just looking at the keyword ranks and the monthly search volume, those traditional metrics, but really shifting to how do we include brand mentions and citations? How do we see who the competitors are? How often are we showing up in AI response snapshots? And what's the sentiment analysis and the trend as people are thinking about my brand versus competitors, especially when people are doing comparison searches on prompts? Are we being is for one reason or another, does AI think, and I'm going to keep saying think, which is sort of strange to think about in itself, but does AI think that our brand is actually going to best serve in a comparison between direct competitors? Is our solution going to be the one it recommends, or is ours going to be the one that says, maybe make a pass on this? It's not really a good fit for your business. And so I like to say to focus on where do we start, because I think that it's like anything, it's hard to sort of begin the journey. But ultimately, what we want to do is we want to focus on how do we become discoverable first and foremost. Second is how do we become credible, and how do we make it easy for AI engines to be able to access and synthesize our content. And finally, we need to be influential, meaning that we need to see how impactful or how influential we are in the LLM conversations, but how are we measuring those LLM trusted sources? So this is not comprehensive, right? This is just the first 3 steps that I've commonly seen and that we have seen as an organization succeed for companies that focus on really taking that first step into gaining an understanding and being more credible and being more influential within AI. But we know that all of these things might seem basic and it's on its surface, but are super, super critical as we start to move into the new age of our entire buyer's journey being taken over by LLMs. So with that, I'm going to focus first on that content piece. I think forever, everyone's been saying content is king. Content is the key marketing currency that we need to focus on. This is, again, more important than ever, because how LLMs are interpreting content is how customers are experiencing and perceiving brands. So for us, we want to address that first challenge I introduced, that teams need to generate more content, but they need to do it with less resources and oftentimes less resources, and oftentimes they have to create more content than they've ever had to do before in order to be able to speak about what they do as a brand and to be a thought leader and to be an authority in the LLMs as we start to generate content. So for us, we have Writing Assistant. Writing Assistant is a generative AI tool that will go through and leverage all of our database of insights. So our company is pulling in all of our traditional search signals. We pull in all of your web analytics data to understand what your brand is and understand the intent behind the actual prompts and the ways that people are searching on LLMs. And we leverage this to be able to generate a really good piece of content that is answer first, meaning that we aren't putting a ton of fluff to just keep people on the page. Like if I have a recipe on a casserole, I don't need the history behind casseroles and like the impact that actually had on my life as a person. I just need to give somebody the recipe of the casserole and understand the intent behind the person who is searching for that. So for us, we really focus on making it easy to be able to leverage our database of insights to generate title tags, generate meta descriptions, and generate the content itself very quickly with those intent signals in mind. And when we're thinking about the intent signals, it's what's the objective behind the person who is looking for what my products and services are? What is the audience, and what's the journey stage that they are at as they are, looking and doing this research within the LLMs themselves. We then score this content based on the ability to be able to meet the objectives itself. We can either import an existing URL in order to be able to sort of score your existing page based on these the scoring methodologies that we've employed, or we can just generate fresh new content, copy the raw HTML, and paste it into our CMS. One of the things that I want to note is that we have, and I'll get to this as we go through and we start to uncover what we're doing from an AI visibility perspective. But a really important thing is to properly cover the topic itself. So we don't want to just say, hey, I'm going to create a piece of content around maximizing your brand's visibility, your brand's AI visibility. I need to answer all the questions that people have around this. So this would be a piece of content that Conductor would release, right? So how do I employ best strategies for AI-driven search? But what are all the topics? What are all the questions that people have that surround this particular conversation? So people are asking for comparisons, like what is the best AEO tool, which we did not employ because this is in a comparison, but how to optimize SEO with the AI. And then we leverage AI to read the output and say, are we actually properly addressing the questions that people ask and the subtopics that matter? Now, what you need in order to have access to this type of information is you need to be able to connect in, for us, the way that we find this information is we connect through the LLMs of the AI engines themselves, and we look at the topic fan, and which allows us to be able to understand all the topics and subtopics that exist within the content itself. So it gives us a lot more information for us to leverage to make sure we're properly becoming authoritative for the intent of the searcher, but also covering all the different questions and the follow-up questions that people have and embedding it into the content itself. This greatly increases the capability of your organization to be a cited source and to be a part of those conversations. We also need to make sure that we are making this content specific to what our brand is and the personas that we are focusing on. So within our solution, we have a content profile where you can go through and you can click on specific target personas, which you're defining, which allows us to give instructions to the AI when we're generating the content itself. This is things like style guides, being able to make sure that we're leveraging certain verbiage, say this word, not this word, like this is a focus for our organization. Like I've worked with lots of healthcare providers that say, we can't use the word elderly, for example, we use the word senior. So things like that to train the AI to make sure that we're properly addressing and focusing our conversations with the brands that we're working with, what our organization would want to put forth in front of folks. So for us, we might have earlier stage content for a Conductor Academy. We might have focus on SEOs, content focused on content marketers. And these are all instructions that we provide to the AI. You, of course, can do this yourself, but just we tend to find just using LLMs directly ends up being a really subpar output, simply because you aren't training the models with enough information to have a unique piece of content that is specific to what your brand is and the personas that you're looking to generate content for. The second piece is then saying, all right, well, we can help first with generating content and helping you scale your content creation efforts, and to score it to with AI intent signals to be able to make sure that we're properly addressing the objectives, the audiences, the journey stages, and that we're properly addressing all the topics and making it really easy and structured with the proper headings and the proper formats. That makes it easy for AI bots to be able to understand what your content is and to be able to take that and leverage it as a reference material. So that's the first step. The second piece is saying, well, that's all great, but how do I actually understand where those content gaps are to begin with? Like, how do I even know where to start? So what we've done as a technology is introduce something called AI topic mapping. The way that AI looks at your website is much less focused on like matching text strings through your website, and much more focused on matching the meaning behind pages and meaning behind what people are getting at when they are searching for particular topics or leveraging it to be able to have conversations. So for us, it's not just a linear chart, like where it's just scrolling through your website. It is building a vector database of your content, and matching the meaning behind between their different pieces of content that you have, no matter where it is on your website. And the way that we employ this is, like if you take this 3D model that we have right here, it's kind of difficult to put into a technology. We kind of have like a top-down view of your website that essentially looks at this the same way that AI or employing the similar methodologies that AI leverages when they are looking at the content that you have that you're looking to like to build authority around. So for example, if I'm SAP and I'm building content around strategic procurement and speed management, these are all the pages that we have that are related to that particular topic. And then what we'll do is we'll leverage like specific optimization opportunities within this. So you'll see right here, this is actually, this is me going through, I said SAP, that's the SAP. This is actually a specific for Conductor. So sorry, I mixed up screenshots here, but this is an opportunity that Conductor has on its own website. So what we'll do is, since we connect in with your analytics as a technology, we understand all the different ways that people are searching for particular topics. What we will do is we will look and leverage that same methodology that AI uses to create a vector database of your website to find all of the related content that you have within the topic itself. And then what we'll do is we'll match this to our traditional search database to understand the demand that exists behind the topic itself. It's not perfect, but there's no prompt. There's no search volume for prompts. So what we try to do is we try to say, all right, well, we do understand that there is a need for us to be able to create content around, Google algorithm updates, and there's a ton of interest on traditional search, which we can leverage as a proxy for the prompts that we're seeing within AI. And then we'll give an AI recommendation to be able to say, what do we do here? We have an optimization opportunity for our pages where we're not driving that much traffic despite strong demand for the topic itself. If I was to click on review opportunity, it literally will create the content for us within what we just looked at before, which was Writing Assistant. So to sort of recap that specific workflow, we kind of are thinking first, all right, well, we have a struggle with we need to become more authoritative within particular topics. And I need to be able to create operational efficiencies within my teams by leveraging next-gen generative AI solutions like the one that Conductor is employing right now that looks at future signals that are important for AI search in generating our content. After I generate that content, I also need to just continue that cycle and understand what are the additional opportunities that we have. And then what we do, the way that we help you with that is by looking at your website and the way the AI looks at your website to understand the gaps that you have in the content that you're generating to help you with that cycle of being able to be more authoritative within the topics that matter for AI. So again, I already sort of explain this, but the way the way that we leverage this is we look at this and we try to match all of this to LLM specific insights. Let's get past this page. I already talked about this. So the second place is being credible, and a lot of this has to do with some of the things are a little bit easier and some of the things are a little bit more difficult. The first thing is we need to make sure that we are demonstrating our EEAT methodologies that SEO has been talking about for many different years in order to be able to make sure that we are properly establishing ourselves as a credible and authoritative website. We need to demonstrate authority. We need to demonstrate our expertise, and really simple methodologies there to make sure that you're including author tags, making sure that you're linking to credible sources and so forth. But we also see that there's a lot of need to be able to implement structured data like schema tags to make sure your technical SEO is up to par. And the way that you do that is by looking at technical signals and measuring this at scale. Now, this is just a screenshot of we have a browser extension, but we do this at scale across your website. So for us, we tend to find that customers that are employing original research get cited much more frequently than companies that are just citing other research that they're seeing out in the space. So we do a ton of thought leadership in our space, in our academy that we used to have behind a gate. So we ungated it in order to be able to make sure that we are properly, establishing ourselves as a trusted authority as AI is looking at our website. So this is just something that we launched in July 10th. AI overview analysis. We did a study of 118 million searches to understand the impact of AI overviews and how often that they were showing up. And the first thing that we want to do is, as we're publishing content, is we need to make sure that it's technically healthy and that it loads and renders immediately. One of the things that is key for these conversations is that if you have a page that's like completely laden with JavaScript and it takes too long to render, AI just doesn't have the bandwidth to be able to look at it and waste the resources. So if it's difficult to crawl your website, AI just does not have time to do it. There's too much money involved in what it already has to do and how much data is synthesizing. So these metrics are becoming more important than they ever were in the past, because you just literally, you'll see the bot activity on your website go in comparison to a website that's very healthy is completely different. So for us, what we really want to do is we want to be able to make sure we're employing tools to be able to measure our technical health as well as our page speed. And as a part of that, you can see we have a little bit of work to be able to do here ourselves. So our recommendation within this would be to open the full report and to share it with our team to be able to say, why is this the case? I already know what the case is. Our image files are too large. And that's something that's pretty simple for us to fix, for us to be able to do in order to be able to put it in a next-gen format to make sure that these pages render quicker. As a side note, and this isn't it's not something I mentioned in that list, but AI can't read JavaScript. So if you have a site that is really difficult for AI to render, maybe you have everything is perfect, like your technical health is great, your mobile page speed and desktop page speed are great, but everything is all through JavaScript pop-ups and modules that customers need to interact with in order to get to the data itself. It gets really difficult to be a part of those conversations. In fact, I worked with a customer, Carnival Cruises, recently, and they were struggling, and they have been struggling with some AI insights or showing up within AI overviews when people are searching for family-friendly cruises. They literally spend millions and millions of dollars on campaigns to be able to present themselves as a family-friendly cruise. But the content that they have that's accessible by AI is like 2 old blog posts. Right? It's very little content that's accessible by AI. Traditionally, the way that they've employed this is by having a person like myself. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. If I ever wanted to go through the nightmare of going on a cruise with a 4 and a 2-year-old, I might then consider and ask AI about a gazillion questions about the safety of the line, the food that they're employing, and all of this. And it's not accessible by AI. All of their web content is more, through drop downs and things that I would go to their site and go through that buyer's journey with them in order to get to the cruise that is specific for what I'm looking for. And I guess what we're saying is that that's kind of been taken out of your hands now. And if right now their competitor Disney Cruises is making much more content to address the questions I might have as a father of 2, they are going to be the reference source and the recommendation, because AI's never been on a cruise, never will go on a cruise, at least not yet. And they need to make sure that and everything that they're being informed of is from your website and then the content, and it needs to be accessible, it needs to be quick, and it needs to be able to also make it really easy for it to be able to understand what the content is. So this leads us to structured data. So again, if we go back to that initial or that second piece is, we need to make sure that our content that we have is credible, it's easy to read. We're implementing author tags, we're making it be able to render easily and quickly. We're cleaning up, any of our technical issues that would make it so it's hard for AI to be able to render. Then the second piece is we need to make sure that we're implementing structured data like schema tags. More important than ever, this is an annoying, or it's not annoying, it's just something that takes time, and you have to implement the strategy and make sure you're employing the correct folks in the conversation, make sure you're properly implementing the schema tags across your website. This just makes it so that AI knows exactly what the purpose of this article is when it's published, and the quicker that you can surface this information to it, the better your results will be. Within our solution, we have the ability to be able to measure your schema tag usage at scale across all of your web properties. So for us, you can see that we went through a massive initiative on our website. This is from Conductor's website. So these are the pages that we have with schema tags. And you can see like we went through a huge overhaul in terms of being able to make sure that we are implementing schema tags across our website. And it absolutely has had a positive results on our ability to be able to show up in AI results. And we see this across our customers, by the way. So this is something that's more important than it ever has been in the past, even though this isn't new information. This is stuff that folks have been talking about, marketers have been talking about, technical stakeholders have been talking about for a very long time. It's just becoming more important with the rise of bots needing to be able to synthesize this information as quickly as possible. And then for us, we then can track the implementation of things and show the impact of it. This is just a screenshot of just us tracking a simple like meta tag change, but we can track any changes that you're making on your website and be able to say whether or not it leads to an increase or decrease in your performance of your key metrics. And we can do this at scale across your entire web portfolio in one single report. So that's any technical issues that you're seeing on your website. We can scale this across your entire website. So again, leverage your own tools, your own methodologies to do this, but all of these things are super key, like being able to make sure your website is technically sound, technically healthy. Like you can create the best content and the most content, and 10x your content creation efforts. But if your website can't be read easily by AI, it won't matter. So that's where in that initial point I was mentioning, it's not just one person doing this. It's getting different stakeholders and different team members across your organization to be able to work on these individual components that matter for AI visibility. And then I think for us, we can also help to, as like a key metric that we're seeing becoming more and more important to our customers. We can also leverage AI bot activity to be able to see how frequently and where AI bots are hitting individual web pages. And we could do this at the specific page itself. So I can go into an individual page and see how often a specific page is being crawled and hit by by GPT or Perplexity or Google bots, Gemini bots at scale across my entire website. And what you're trying to look for there is to see if it's hitting any blockers. If for some reason or another, your important pages aren't being crawled as frequently as you would like. And so finally, that leads to being influential, which is, and the way that I'm thinking and synthesizing being influential, am I influential on like what is influential on AI? Like am I influencing the conversation? Is a competitor influencing the conversation, or is it LLM's trusted sources? So we're seeing a rise of specific trusted sources that are becoming much more prevalent and much more important than they ever were in the past. And I'm not just talking about Reddit. It's actually kind of interesting. You see a lot of studies that are coming out that say, oh, Reddit, if you're not in the Reddit conversations, you'll never be part of AI. A lot of Reddit, first of all, a lot of those studies are based on just like a few million keywords. So, when you're looking at the source data for any of the studies, just see how I mean, there's billions of prompts that are happening like on a monthly basis or a daily basis probably. And for us, it's if you're just looking at a sample size of like 10 million, 15 million prompts, it's not going to be big enough to fully understand the impact broadly across the entire scope of what's going on in AI. What matters more is what's going on in your industry for the prompts that customers are using to be able to find your products and services, because you'll tend to find that changes. So we have AI search performance metrics in our technology where we can help you understand where you're visible on ChatGPT, both auto and search, Google AI mode, Google AIO, Perplexity, and Gemini as well. And so for us, we're going to continue adding engines as it becomes more important to specific customers to track those particular engines. So as we move through the year, we'll be adding Claude and Grok and DeepSeek, and honestly, whichever AI engines you tend to find that customers are looking for, if there's a need for it, we will develop the methodologies to track this. And the way that we collect this data is we connect directly through the APIs of every single one of these engines. We sign enterprise level agreements with let's say OpenAI, for example, which enables us to be able to essentially ask and spark conversations and collect the data from an engineering perspective behind the scenes as we're collecting that information. So we're not just crawling and scraping the prompts themselves. That actually goes against the terms and conditions of those organizations, even though there's like literally like dozens of of companies that are doing that today. It goes against the terms and services of ChatGPT or OpenAI, for example, to crawl it, which is different than crawling Google results. Google is Google is public domain. You can crawl Google and scrape those results. Crawling an intellectual, like the IP of the user interface version of ChatGPT, is definitely an issue in the long term. So for us, we're doing it the correct way. We're spending the money and signing the agreements with the organizations themselves to collect the data, which allows us to have a lot more access to a lot more information, such as that topic fan I mentioned earlier, which can help us with things such as our ability to be able to create content for AI. We understand the different conversations that exist around the actual initial prompt itself. And when we actually collect the prompt, this isn't what it looks like, because again, this is more of like a machine version of this, but we're extracting the prompt itself. We're understanding what the sentiment is. We're understanding whether or not your brand is visible or not. Even if it's not being cited, we'll understand if your brand or any of the brands that you employ. So for example, we work with Dell. Dell has Alienware, so we can go through and match that if Dell is mentioned as brand, or Alienware, or any of their different brands that they own is mentioned. You can set it up in our technology to be able to extract that from the prompts itself. We'll understand the search intent by we leverage AI to be able to read through the prompt itself and to give it specific instructions to see and to bucket into particular search intent. And then we will extract the citations itself, which we can do because we're leveraging the API. So this is another really good reason to connect to the API rather than crawl the results itself. It gives us access to the things such as the cited sources at much greater accuracy and fidelity. And so we can do things such as be able to track your brand mentions and citations over time, but we can also leverage the methodologies I just mentioned before to be able to understand what's the intent behind people who are searching when they're looking at branded versus non-branded prompts on the LLMs. We can make our own definitions and put our own guidelines into identifying the personas themselves. So we can go through and understand the different personas that are searching across the different prompts. And then we also want to be able to look at the brand sentiment and sentiment sources over time. But in order to be able to do that, I do want to introduce the concept of trusted and partner sources. So I kind of alluded to this before when I went on a little tangent talking about Reddit and whether or not Reddit is like your primary focus and is the primary, source of information for LLMs. It is absolutely influential. It is not the primary source. It depends on your industry. So if you I just talked to a university client of ours recently, or higher education client of ours recently, and it's not Reddit that's influencing the conversation. When students are looking across different like political science degrees or what have you, there's specific review or university review guideline sources that are being sourced by the AI at a much higher fidelity or a much higher rate than any public forum. So you're starting to see AI engines go to trusted sources much more than they were in the past. So leveraging and some of this is happening with actual contracted agreements. So we're starting to see like Consumer Reports. You start to see Wired show up a lot. So I think maybe the initial run was, hey, there's just a lot of conversation, a lot of topics, a lot of information on Reddit. We're starting to see that get a little bit more distributed as AI is starting to understand and to try to prevent its own hallucinations by having trusted sources that are going to be feeding a lot more information to the AI. But what we need to be able to do is to be able to understand who are the influential sources for the topics and the products and services that we are currently care about. So maybe it is Reddit, right? Great. Do we have a team that is going to go in and be a part of the conversations to make sure that the sentiment of the conversation is positive? Or is it, in our case, Trustpilot? Trustpilot shows up all the time for results for AEO technologies. So for us, do we have a proper what is our score on Trustpilot? Is it what can we do in order to be able to improve? What methodologies can we have in order to be able to make sure that we are that our brand is in a positive light. And you can take that same methodologies and apply it to whatever reviews or whatever trusted sources are specific to the industry for your brand or for your clients' brands. And you could do this across any AI search engine. So right now we're looking at this across Perplexity, but I can look at this for like every single AI engine combined, or I can start to do an analysis such as, am I more authoritative in chat, or what are the trusted sources in ChatGPT or Gemini? Are they different? Maybe they're the same and it doesn't matter, but if they're different, I should be looking at my AI referral traffic, see where I'm getting referral traffic from, and start to make sure that I'm prioritizing the trusted sources for the topics and for the branded and non-branded prompts that people are leveraging, and make connections with the trusted sources that are influencing the conversations. And by influencing the conversations, I mean, like, what's the sentiment of AI about my brand? I mentioned Carnival Cruises just a moment ago. I haven't seen the Netflix documentary myself, but there's apparently like a really bad Netflix documentary about Carnival Cruises. You can look it up. It's apparently pretty ridiculous. And unfortunately, that's created a lot of negative public discourse around the brand. So if that is going to be, if the cited sources are focused on the Netflix documentary and not focused on why it's a phenomenal cruise line for families to go on, then you're going to see an increase in negative sentiment in the LLMs talking about you within whatever topic you want to track within our system. So I can look across all of my topics, or I can just say, I want to focus on this area of my business, and I want to understand whether or not I'm being seen as positive or negative. And I don't have the slide for it, but we could do it. We could always do a follow-up. But if I click explore, it shows a word cloud of all the different ways and different ways that people are. It almost like extracts specific meanings from the prompts themselves and shows the snippet of conversation within the prompts that we're extracting with the cited source. That allows us to be able to understand specifically what the sentence is that is being leveraged by the AI from the cited source to give it a negative or a positive spin. It's also a really great way of being able to get quotes in your website, because it actually will extract the specific conversation that is happening, and it will tell you exactly where it came from. So that's just as a side note, it's a really good way of being able to see the conversational nature of ways that people are talking about your brand. So when we're talking about key metrics that matter now, it's like we need to make sure our brand sentiment in AI continues to go up into the right. Because obviously, if it's a negative sentiment, we will never be recommended as a brand as it relates to any conversations or buyer journeys that people are having on the AI engines themselves. And so when I mention tying this to referral traffic, or like where do we focus on? What we want to be able to do is be able to say, are we tracking our AI sessions as a key metric of success right now? I think across the board, we see Google traffic to websites taking a hit. It's not always the case, depends on your business, but we see a lot of impact in terms of the traffic itself, but we're seeing an increase in conversions on the back end. And then we also have recently released the ability to be able to track across all of our different AI engines to be able to see our performance by AI engine. And this allows us to understand where we want to focus our time and energy. So for example, like do I really care about doing if I had a choice and I had a limited budget, do I want to do an analysis on ChatGPT or Gemini? Well, for us, we want to focus on ChatGPT and be able to understand whether or not, like, who are the trusted sources on ChatGPT and how are they finding our products and services. So again, we want to be able to, what we're focused on right now is being able to help you automate and curate prompt tracking, so you understand the different prompts and ways that people are searching and discovering your brand. We need to adapt to this behavior. We need to track our brand mentions and citations and measure our market share. And then we need to be able to track the citations to gauge our own brand authority or see who is authoritative within our market. And again, like, all these conversations are just happening everywhere, right? So LLMs are getting information from our website, they're getting it from competitors' websites, they're getting from trusted sources, they're getting them from forums. We just need to be able to take, like, sort of this mess of information and synthesize it for our customers so that they can properly address this as so that they can properly put strategies in forth to be able to get a better handle and get more influential in these conversations. So if we think of that end-to-end workflow, all of this gets synthesized within our central technology. So we help with help to generate the content that matters for AI. We help to measure your performance across AEO as well as traditional SEO engines, because even though all the conversation is on AEO right now, traditional SEO is still important. It still makes up a massive amount of traffic. You cannot just ignore Google entirely because of AI. It just means that the focus is more in that area right now because it is so pertinent to be a part of those conversations. And finally, we want to be able to track and monitor and alert ourselves to technical issues that are important, that are more important than ever, and focusing our time and energy on things like page speed, implementing structured data, and making sure that our pages are accessible as possible. And we combine all of this data within a centralized unified engine, which allows us to be able to build AI methodologies that can extract from each of these components. So our content creation and strategy and generation technologies, they're not on an island. They can be influenced by our website data that we're pulling from your analytics and from our insights that we have on AEO. Similarly, we tie our performance for AEO to our ability to be able to implement things such as structured data on our website, or to clean up errors or things that are preventing AI from being able to address this. And so, we're really focused on providing an end-to-end workflow within one centralized technology. And I'm sure you've kind of seen this mix of solutions in the past, where traditionally customers will be leveraging a content creation tool like maybe a Jasper or a Writer to create content, and they might be leveraging an AEO tool like a Profound, or they're using like more traditional SEO tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush, which have some AEO solutions, but they're a little bit lagging behind some solutions that are really, really focused on it. Like, of course, have been really focused this past year on, as well as some specific AEO tools. And then also, like, either you or your clients are leveraging some sort of a technical site auditing solution, like a Botify, which is now Lumar, a Screaming Frog, or I'm sorry, a Deep Crawl, which is now Lumar, a Botify, a Screaming Frog. So for us, we're providing an end-to-end solution in one centralized operating system, which creates operational efficiencies for our clients, but also creates cost efficiencies. Because if you have customers that are currently, have contracts with every single one of these solutions, they're going to range from 20 to 50 to 60K per solution. So you can create a lot of cost efficiencies by centralizing all these systems within a next-gen AI solution, which is really what we've been focusing on as a technology over the past decade. So I know that right now we're sort of at the end, and I know we have some questions. So I want to make sure we spend some time to address it. But just last note, again, we're focused on an end-to-end workflow in one centralized system. So within Conductor, which is powering Acquia SEO, we can do everything from tracking your AI site and search performance to giving your competitive intelligence across traditional traditional Google search results and AI engines. We can help you address and build a content strategy with content mapping, to then create content and optimization to help you increase your AI LLM discoverability. And then finally, tying it all to make sure that we're addressing any technical issues that are preventing our content from being found in the first place. So that end-to-end workflow is something that's super important for our customers and is the main value that we bring in the marketplace. And so I think with that, I know that I talked longer than I thought I was going to. Garry, I told you I was going to do it. I get on these tangents, but I know Garry has a few final thoughts here. So I guess I'll turn it over to Garry to kind of wrap things up.
Thanks a lot, Pat, and brilliant job as always. You used the time very well. It's a topic, where there's a lot of ground to cover. And look, I think I'm just reminded by this presentation of, how daunting the future due to the evolution of search, AI, LLMs really has become, both for brands and agencies. I think it's inevitable that, Google traffic is going to be lost to AI and the LLMs. And I think it's also true that, brands and their agencies are going to lose control of the perception of those brands and the sentiment around those brands. And so it's no longer enough to just deploy kind of strategies and processes to cope with that. I think there is a need for tools to assist, in that process. And that's where the Conductor team, together with, Acquia, have some very robust solutions to help across the entire workflow. I think also there are a couple of questions that came in here as well. One question was with regards to will the presentation be shared? Yes, the BIMA team together with Conductor and Acquia will do a follow-up. We'll share these materials as well. And then another question, there's a lot of noise at the moment around AI overviews and their impact on the SERPs. Do you think there is or will be increased demand for SEO services in the next 2 years? What's your view on that one, Pat?
100%. In fact, if there's any takeaway, if you're an agency partner and you are looking at this from a services angle, there's two things to focus on. So from Conductor's perspective as a technology company, I've been at Conductor for over 10 years, 13, not 13. I've never been in my time and tenure in this space, I've never seen the amount of activity that's happening, meaning that every single company is currently evaluating their strategies. They're employing AI councils, like you probably see it in your clients. There's AI councils that are popping up that are acquiring technologies and reevaluating their agency relationships to make sure that they are doing everything that they can in order to be able to shore up and make sure that they have the best in class solutions and services to be able to make sure that they aren't going to have the massive disruption that they are anticipating. And the other big shift is this is coming from the executive level. So for many years, we've been selling through and going into the SEO teams within organizations. This is just coming down from the executive leadership team. And as it relates to AI overviews and the impact of SERPs, I mean, everyone's going to want a strategy here because it's not just the AI overviews. Like Google AI mode releasing is fundamentally changing how I use Google every day. Like I use Google AI mode all the time now. And so I think that with all the changes that are happening at the same time, everyone is going to want to have some sort of a flavor in their agency relationships to be able to make sure that they are doing everything they can as a business to be able to address and be a part of these conversations. And it could be AI overviews. How do you become an AI overviews? You need answer first you need answer first. It's the same strategies we've been talking about for a while. You need like answer first questions that are addressing what the answer or what the question is that the person is having or being a part of the conversation, or answer first content is what I was trying to say. You need to make sure you're implementing structured data. You need to make sure that it is easy for which enables the Google to be able to pull the piece of information as quickly as possible and to put it into AI overviews. You need to be able to track your success for these initiatives over time. And so I think that you need agency services to be able to properly employ a lot of these methodologies because it's too big of a problem. I also think that there's a big opportunity for consulting within organizations from an agency perspective to tie the disparate teams together, which can extend your reach in an organization, but also enables you to be able to sort of help teams understand that they need to work together. I'm not just working with the SEO team. I really do need to work with IT. I need to work with content. I need to work with SEO teams. And I need them all working on the same page together because this is too big of a problem to ignore. And the last thing I'll mention is from conversations that you're having with clients or even internally with your own stakeholders, AI is latent. So you can't wait until next year when budgets open up to do this because AI takes most of the sources and the things that are happening. It is trained on data and it establishes the trusted partnerships. And we're seeing like 60 to 90 days. So we tend to see like those same trusted partnerships are there influencing the conversations until it gets around to refreshing its information. And it's becoming quicker, but still, it's not something that we can't wait until next year to figure this out, because once it happens and you're not a part of the conversation, you've already given up that first step. You've already given up the hill to a competitor, and now you have to fight to get back up to there. Waiting for the magical moment when all the stars align, your budget's aligned, the team's aligned. So that's all I have to say there to that very brief question.
I love that, Pat. And what a note to end on. Time is the enemy. Don't give up the hill. Don't let the competitors steal a march. And we have a suggested, next step to continue the conversation. If you would like to see, us bring this to life, the Conductor and Acquia capabilities within a customized demonstration, we'd be very happy to schedule that for your brand or for your agency. And in the process, you've got a chance to win an Acquia Drupal branded pair of Converse shoes as well, which will get out to you. So thank you so much, Pat. And I think maybe back to Matt to wrap up and take us home.
And expertly timed. We're dead on. So I'll wrap up extremely quickly, Patrick. That was really interesting. Thanks. There's a lot of detail in there. We've been asked if we'll share the slides, and told that we can. So expect them to come your way. But yeah, be discoverable, be credible, be influential. Okay, we're 1 minute past, so I'm going to have to wrap us up. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Garry. Thank you, Patrick, for putting on such an informative webinar. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everybody.
Appreciate it. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.